You know, there is actually a little timer that hello, Xate. I am live, apparently, and I'm sorry about the timer having such a loud soundtrack. So, yeah, apparently we're going to start in just a couple of minutes, so people are getting ready in the red room. Maybe I'm going to take this off because it is actually a little hotter than I thought, although it's too hot for my jumper, too cold without it. Board. Board games, it's what we're talking about. Board games, I'm not gonna shout. I am starting off this streaming with the unusual fact that Xate is watching, and soon someone else will be joining. Oh, that's very flattering. And that is incredibly flattering. Xate says that I am sexy. The jumper should not be worn on me. I'm going to wait until there is someone else named Tiz. It is unusual because today is the day of the week that's a Sunday, and you're here only 6 days a week. So it's unusual that you're here to tweak the rhythms of, you know, what's going on. You get what I mean? And I'm sorry, Xate, that you are not well. I hope that soon you will be feeling swell. I hope that Xate has a joyous morning, even though I understand that you will be hurting, even though I understand that you're not feeling great. I have lots of thoughts and love for you, Xate. Board games, it's what I'm thinking about. Is it? Am I really thinking about board games? Board games. I'm not gonna shout just to talk about board games. Yesterday I opened 2 boxes, and these boxes were not in boxes, and one box was my little scythe, which this is quite heavy. It's also quite bright, and I'm going to be very careful with where I put it because I can't just put them all up on a pile because the pile is literally this high. Just to show you. Yeah, it's quite a high pile of games. Anyway, board games. It's what I'm talking about in some manner. Board games. It's why I'm not going to shout. Now there's another. Board games. Now there is a person here whose name is Tiz. And Tiz is a co-designer. We are working on a game together. We started this about 1 year ago when things in this world were kind of better because there was not a pandemic ravaging everything. But having said that, back then I did not start every day with a thing. So maybe this stream is one thing that will continue. Who will know? Maybe the future you. And yeah, board games, and seize the power is what we're talking about. Board games and seize the power. I'm not going to shout. Good morning. Hello. And Sate says that I never sing about board games in the Sing About Board Games intro, although I did technically very briefly do so today. And the more that Sate sees off my room, the more they want to go on an organisation spree. Yeah, you know what? True story. Jess, who you might know as Jess JS from chat, they came to visit me about a year and a half ago, and then they really helped me tidy this, and it was so good. I mean, it wasn't properly tidied, but I felt like I'd started the tidying. If there was a reason why I hadn't been able to go to any conventions back then maybe I would have been able to do it. But true story, I've been talking about tidying my room for so long, and it's just been, yeah, it's like this big thing that's weighing on me. Do you know what I mean? Like just getting started, it feels like such a big thing. Do you ever feel like this, Tiz? Are you tidy?
I have to be. I have attention problems, and I definitely need to be as organized as I can. Otherwise, I lose track. But what I recommend you is that you can generate a system. So every time you bring a new board game in or you get a new delivery from your game, you know where they're gonna go. So there's not just like one more random box that you pile up. That could be a good way to fix it.
Yeah, I think the truth is that right now, if there is so much space that I need to take it all out and to kind of organize it and then
Yeah.
bring it back in. But outside in the living room, because I'm not the only disorganized person in this house anymore. It was actually better when, um, yeah, back in the day there used to be, um, in two of the people who've come in the past year are far more disorganized than two of the other people. So the living room is very disorganized, and you can't even access easily all my board games in the living room, which is really not great because
Yeah.
of other people's boxes in front of them. Um,
And what do they have? By any, if that's okay to ask.
by the way, Sate asks if there's any way that you could come closer to a microphone.
Yes, for sure. Give me a second.
So, let me do the normal introductions, which I've totally not done. I think this has been the longest that I've ever gone without mentioning that I am Bez. It is bedtime in some countries. Although I'm not feeling great, you know, I might after this do like half an hour of something that I need to do. And then I was almost considering, because I had arranged to meet up with McCall, but I was considering saying, you know, I really, really want to take a nap. But anyway, wherever you are, it can always be bedtime, whatever time it is. If you need to take a nap, then there's no shame in that, specifically if you're not feeling great. We are blethering about board games in some fashion. We are going to be talking about Seize the Power. Seize the Power Part 1 is not a thing. This is Part 1 of us talking about Seize the Power. But Part 2 might be with, you know, Peter Blankhorn and, you know, Rose, and then maybe we'll talk about why they signed it up, or maybe part 2 will be with us as well. It depends how
Yeah.
much we blether and how much we ramble. Have you not been on my 10 a.m. show before, Tiz?
I might have. I'm not sure. I've been in a different. Yeah, no, I think I've been
Okay.
before, but I have fixed my audio, and now I think it's sounding better.
I don't think it's sounding like it's not sounding great to me. Xate is excited for Peter and Rose. Um, Apparently it's our fan favorites. So my number one fan is clearly Xate. So I want to say thank you for watching, and being an amazing moderator and slashing people with your virtual sword. It is lovely to have you as part of my stream when you can make it. Anyway, so yeah. Oh my gosh, you sound so much better now. Speak.
Yeah. There's a fix, but I sometimes the default gets it wrong.
Okay.
Anyways, perfect.
This is perfect. Okay, so
Thank you, Phil, for telling us.
yeah, so their name is Xate, but they basically call themselves Will Cook for Board Games because they will literally cook in return for board games. They
Oh,
even
really?
say that if you send them board games, they will potentially send you chocolate, depending on how. But this is not just any chocolate. This is homemade chocolate.
Ooh. How is
And
that? You need to make a show about that.
yeah, you do. Xate. Most people can't pronounce it. Thank you. I can pronounce it. So, yeah, maybe we should have a side chat. This is how you pronounce Xate. X, X, 8, X, 8, Xate. Can you pronounce Xate?
Xate.
Yes.
No. Yes.
And Xate's YouTube has 2 videos of them drawing logos for board gamers out of chocolate.
Oh, wow.
And also, apparently Tiz did even better. And also, Xate's amazing. Like, I want to get in on this action. Apparently, they make edible board games. Like, they did the game Patchwork Doodle. So it's like a roll and write where you draw on a sheet of paper. And in Xate's version, instead of doodling on a sheet of paper, you're adding up things onto a pizza. Is that not amazing?
Yeah.
Oh man, like the more I hear about this, the more I'm like, you know what? Even if Berlin is a hotspot, I'm going to work out some way. I maybe just fly into Leipzig, and although Liz would be very sad if I didn't go, but and I am planning a potential visit. I hear that Berlin is a COVID hotspot, which is problematic. Oh, I should tell my guests now. I've started having pronouns after the names. Would you feel comfortable?
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah, so let's talk about brilliant things. Brilliant things. What's a little thing which is brilliant? Should we talk about pronouns?
For sure.
Okay, so what are your pronouns, Xate? I mean, sorry, Tiz.
My pronouns are she, her.
Okay.
I just changed them right now.
And are you comfortable being called they?
For sure, yeah.
And so, your native language is Spanish, right?
Correct.
What's it like over there when, yeah?
We don't have a day alternative, which I came to figure out that they has existed in the English language for a very long time. It was just, or is it not? It's not used quite often. In Spanish, we don't have a word for that, so it's a bit more complicated.
In Spanish, do you change the verbs and do you change the language around the person depending on their gender? Because I know in French you say un médecin, une médecine. I'm trying to think of another word. Un professeur, une professeure.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it also works in Spanish in the same way. I guess if it would be they, you would probably use the male pronoun, which is supposed to be neutral as well.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit it's a bit crazy. Like, I know that in 4C, even though Iran is hardly, and a quick hello to Alex, lovely to see you. I want to say, even though Iran is not the paragon of gender equality by any means, because for sure, some people need to wear veils over their hair if they're female presenting, and cover up certain things. Then, you know, if a woman goes to order a taxi alone, you know, it can be quite problematic even sometimes. And yeah, there's a lot of problems there. But at the same time, if you say, bebin in cas tis hast un shachse chelichube, that means that this is Tiz, they are a very nice person. So
Yeah.
I say un shachse chelichube, whereas if I was talking about Alex, I would still say un shachse chelichube, because it's actually, there is no gendered he or she, which is crazy, which suggests in some ways that, you know, that wasn't the, you know, maybe you could argue, therefore, that language doesn't actually lead to any more equality, which is a thing for us to kind of think of. But at the same time, yeah, it's a two-pronged battle.
Yes, of course. I mean, there's a lot of people that have been involved with this in Mexico and people overall in the Spanish language. So there's many fixes that you can use for that. Uh, the thing is that they're not official in a way, and I don't know if they will become official. But for example, when you finish a word in Spanish that has a gender, as you said, most professions have a gender. Uh, Instead of A is for female, and usually O or maybe some other vowel is for male. So instead of putting either of them, you just put an X or put an at.
I mean, I think what I'm really saying here is that the brilliant thing is not pronouns in themselves. It's not that we can refer to someone without using their name all the time. Because I think that if we were to say, Xate is great, Xate is lovely, as opposed to Xate is great, she is lovely, is it any better to say she rather than Xate? I don't think so. But the brilliant thing here is the gender neutral pronoun, especially in rule books. And Isaac Shalev, who came on, him singular they in rules. And I really appreciate that, because when you're rereading a rule book, rather than it being he or him, especially in this day and age where people should be able to embrace their non-binary nature, if like, it's about letting people feel free to express themselves in all sorts of ways. And so, yeah, I just want to give a shout out that it was relatively recently, within the past year, that within the Chicago Style Guide, and I wrote a blog post about it on BGG, lots of people thumbed it, which was about Magic the Gathering, which changed its nature. And now it's no longer this player target player draws a card, he or she discards cards equal to the casting cost of that card. It would be target player draws and reveals a card, they discard cards equal to the casting cost of that card they just drew. So having I mean, it's a complicated thing anyway. That would be a complicated card anyway too. And that sounds like a terrible card. And yeah. So yeah, it's about when you're referring to people as a bunch of people. I mean, let's just all appreciate gender neutral terms for rules and for when you're first meeting a person, when you don't know what gender someone is. Because I understand, Xate, you strongly dislike being called they, but there are some other people who might look exactly like you from an external point of view who strongly dislike being called she or he. And it feels like, to me,
It's way better to call someone in a neutral way than just assuming a gender from
when you
starts.
first meet them, for sure. Like, if I get to know someone, I think there's a strong argument I can understand that, to say, you know, oh, look at that person, they're looking amazing. You know, it sounds better. Sure, second person perspective, but sometimes third person is just unavoidable. But let's all... I think the key thing here is inclusion. And I think that's the thing that we can get into. Inclusion and respect. And so those are brilliant things. Can we all give a hand wave for respect? Oh, I mean, I draw
think I have
two
never
cards.
seen a first-person rule book.
Because, that's just crazy. That's just going to mess with your head. Yeah. If I drew two cards, then I must discard one. That won't get confusing at all, says Xate in a very sarcastic manner. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. But let's talk about recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights, recent highlights, playing games and other delights, recent highlights. So, in the comments, as always, feel free to share what are your recent highlights. I have been enjoying the Best and Friends game day, which I really enjoyed. I enjoyed with how much money, seeing like so many people that were playing that, and with Q4U and Nano Muckle, there were a few people in those party games, and Alan Paul's game ran. Although I do think that we should have had a sign-up sheet because, yeah, the game ran for nearly an hour, so maybe other people don't want to wait around. It should have been maybe, okay, Alan Paul's game, you can play it at 2 p.m. if you want, or at 3 p.m., or at 4, or at 5. And, not wanting to make too much work for Alan, maybe Alan takes one of those hours off, but whatever works for Alan, having that sort of sign-up sheet so that people... Anyway, I had a quick chat with Jason this morning about what we could have potentially done differently, but we have already decided there is going to be another one potentially in January. I've got some strong ideas of who I want to be there. I think I'm going to yeah, I don't want to publicly say, because then, if I invite them and then they don't come, then they'll look bad and I'll feel embarrassed that they aren't here. But I'm feeling like we want to probably keep it a few party games, but a couple more complex strategic games. And so some games that's running that people can jump into and jump out of. And, something that, if you want to play something where you're making strategic tactical choices about how to optimize your play, then you can play that as well. And so the only issue is Tabletopia, that I know for some people it didn't work. And it is a bigger... more publishers are enjoying that currently than Tabletop Simulator, just because of the Tabletop Simulator legality issues, because Tabletop Simulator can... Anyway, but...
Hopefully they'll make it better over time because of that reason.
And possibly Tabletopia will make it more accessible. I should challenge Mark, at this time, say, like, get in with Mark and say, hey, Mark, why can't I do this? And get me to ask those difficult questions of Mark. To be fair, like, the next episode's already going to be a difficult episode for Mark, which is all about the how can they justify charging so much money and justify charging the subscription model. And so, yeah, that's going to be challenging anyway. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with this, and I had like Dina, and I did watch back the bit with Xate and Chris before I dozed off to bed. That was lovely. I'm sorry, Xate, I did watch it. I defrosted the freezer, which this morning there was still ice in it. I turned it off around 7 p.m. There's still ice in it, but there was a lot of ice at the top. Oh, I should have posted the pictures on thingy.
How long has it been like that? Like how long does that ice has been building up? The ice.
Oh, we've not defrosted our freezer for years. Like, since I moved here, we have never defrosted the freezer.
I think I haven't done that neither.
I think that it depends how old it is.
Okay.
And so, like, if it's a good freezer, then maybe it's not such an issue. Ours already has cracks around the seal, so you need to be sure to always push it. So some people, you know, they might not close it properly, and it's, oh my God, now more ice is going to get there. So then we just chip off bits to make sure that the door can close properly again. But now it was like, okay, hopefully once we turn it on again. And I do want to say that our house is very badly built. I know this is a bit more talk about defrosting freezers than we normally have, but our house is very badly managed because the plug is basically behind the freezer, so there's no way to take out the plug without actually moving the entire freezer, which is ridiculous. So yeah, we couldn't unplug it. What we had to do was turn off the fuse box for the kitchen area. So now for the hob, you need to use a lighter, and I couldn't run the dishwasher last night. And yeah, I couldn't, yeah, George had to turn it back on for like just 3 minutes to use the microwave. But like, you know, 3 minutes, okay, it's not going to be too bad for the freezer. But yeah, it's really badly set up in so many ways, this house. Like, if I owned this house, you know, I would do so much to change it. But I think that's the difference between a house you own and live in versus a house that's being rented. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's usually the problem, because these spaces, sometimes they're not living spaces because of that. When I moved into my flat, the one that I'm currently living right now, yeah, I mean, it had so many stuff that were obsolete, or like some like weird decorations that they just take up space, and I don't want them, you know. But it's clearly they just set it up for the flat to look nice, but they never considered that people were actually gonna be living here, and they need practical stuff.
I mean, it's a difficult one. Or just before I get rid of this banner, I think that everyone in the chat's already part of the Discord, but basically, if you're not part of the Discord, just join it. And that's going to be I'm not going to talk about it every day from now on. But yeah, so other recent highlights, other than, you know, the joy in my life of defrosting this freezer and eating everything in the fridge, because we've turned the entire kitchen off essentially, so we need to eat everything in the fridge. And yeah, maybe I've eaten some bad stuff. Maybe that's why I'm not feeling great, although I don't know. Anyway, so what's your recent highlights, Tiz?
Oof. For starters, yesterday I slept very, very, very late, editing some videos, because I'm doing a series of animation for a job that I got. And so if I say something that doesn't make sense, it might have to do with that. So just ask me to explain what I'm trying to say. But that is definitely one highlight. It has been keeping me up every night for the week. The other recent highlight is that today I'm going to have some Mexican food. And that makes me very happy.
I mean, we can talk about that again at the end when we talk about things we're looking forward to. That sounds amazing. Oh my gosh, I never talked about the games. Okay, so quickly, very quickly talking about games. I facilitated games of all sorts of things. I did play quickly How Much Money. Yeah, I think everyone wants some Mexican food. I want Mexican food, although there's other food that I need to consume. Otherwise, it'll be thrown away. Yeah, I can get behind that. So I played Nanomukle a good bunch of times, and also I did get 2 new games through the post. My Little Scythe, which is fairly heavy. I feel like this is actually heavier than the other game which I got, which is Tapestry. And so yeah, I'm looking forward to playing both of these, and I might even ask Chris and McCall if they're up for playing this on Monday. Or actually, yeah, and so I'm looking forward to trying that out and seeing how it goes. And so those are my recent highlights. I've not played a bunch of Nanomukle. I did win a lot of Nanomukle except for Neko-chan, who is amazing, and actually managed to get 8 letters. And Alex wasn't there, otherwise Alex probably would have won, because Alex is also amazing at Nanamuckle. Anyway, let's move.
I have another recent highlight that I want to say really, really fast.
Do it.
I also got 2 games this week.
Ooh.
I was like, I need to get them for sure. So the first one is Pandemic. So I don't have any cooperative game in my collection. And I thought this is the classic. I'm just going to get it. And I got it. I haven't played it yet. And I also got a party game that I'm very excited because I'm going to go back to Mexico soon. And I'm going to see all my friends and we're going to go to the beach to kind of like have a 2-week quarantine kind of thing. So I got the One Night Werewolf game as well that I think is going to fit very, very well because they're non-players. But yeah, those are my recent highlights.
Yeah, I love One Night's Ultimate Werewolf. And Xates, I don't know what game this is, but Team Brown caught Dave the Ripper on Space 125. Is this... Oh, Letters of Whitechapel, Night 3. We play about a night of the game per Saturday. Oh, that's cool. So it's like... yeah, that, I guess because the nights are separate, anyone can just jump in. And yeah, that sounds really good. And so, yeah, that's a recent highlight from the chat. Feel free to share your recent highlights. Oh, it was amazing, says Xate. And share anything you want. Ask us any questionably quick questions. And we will start off by asking Tiz, where exactly are you right now?
Where am I right now? Yes, I'm in London. I'm in my flat. And I'm sitting on the couch very comfortably with a little blanket because I'm cold.
Excellent. And how long have you been on this couch?
Probably a few seconds before I joined you in the live stream. You guys don't know, but we had a little bit of a misunderstanding about the time. It was my bad. So I was running and getting my coffee and jumping in the couch and play live.
And yeah, we've got chats about Dave's reaction, Dave Fluza being amazing, and Alex and Xate are historically Team Brown. That's where their collaborations started. And yeah, that sounds lovely. So inspired by Alex, I'm going to ask you a question, Tiz. Would you prefer to have a giraffe-sized duck or a duck-sized giraffe?
Ooh.
Both of them are friendly.
I think a duck of the size of a giraffe.
So you're into giant animals.
Well, I don't know. I think it would be really cool. The first thing I thought is to get the small giraffe because I think that's really cute. And it would be a great like alternative to a pet, I guess, or something like that. But then I thought about the giant duck. And that changed everything.
Okay, Xate says that we need to keep it somewhat about board games. Okay, would you prefer to have a tapestry-sized L-deck, or would you prefer to have an L-deck-sized copy of Tapestry?
Well, I have never played, or I don't know what the Tapestry game is about. So I'll go for the L-deck, the size of Tapestry, and then I probably get the original Tapestry.
Xates would prefer the L-size Tapestry. You'd have to use like little tweezers and stuff with it.
Yeah, that's why.
Everyone wants that now, apparently, to play on trains. What is your favorite big box game?
Mine?
Yep.
As of now, I think, or my current favorite must be Riff. Have you played it?
Is that the one where you're kind of making sets and it's really nice plastic pieces?
Yes. It might not be the most I don't know if it's considered a big box game though. Is it? No.
I mean, it's like a biggish. It's definitely not a small box.
Exactly, but maybe you mean like a lot of components, right?
Nah, that works. I just wanted to know what game you like that comes in a bigger box. And hello, Mandela. It's lovely to have you
Hi,
join us in the
Mandela.
chat. So Mandela and Tiz are both friends from this area. And if you could make a game about something specifically Mexican, what would you go for?
Ooh, I don't know. I mean, there's many things that I can think about, but I'm not sure. I would have to think about it more
I mean, Dia de
deeply.
los Muertos is the kind of stereotypical thing.
Yes, but I wouldn't go for Dia de los Muertos. There's already a game called Skull that has like that theme, and also because, yeah, I mean, I guess it would be too easy just to tap on the mainstream. But I would like to talk about something more deeply embedded in, well, not that the Day of the Dead is not, it just became like an international thing recently, but something very unique of the Mexican culture that people who play might learn something interesting about it. I don't know. I mean, if it would be like a party game, even like building tacos or something like that could be an interesting thing, or just a fun thing. Because also, Will Cook was saying something about the about Mexican food in London being Tex-Mex, or when you get Mexican food, you usually get Tex-Mex food. But um, the reality is that tacos usually look very different to the stereotype of what is Tex-Mex. In fact, burritos, for example, is not such a common thing to eat in Mexico. In the north, yes, but all throughout, not really. It's actually something more American. Chili is something American as well. So it would be interesting for me to build a game about making tacos, because the diversity of the types of salsas, the types of content you can have, the types of add-ons like onion or coriander, that could be an interesting game. There is a taco building game. Who did that? What's the name?
Well, Taco Takeover. I will. Okay, it looks like it's from uncredited from 2015. And yeah, it doesn't look like there's much going on here. Oh, there's a review from Tom Vassell. Yeah, maybe we can check that out after the thing. Let's
Wow.
share the screen.
Now
I wanted to
I'm gonna
talk.
add something, because this
So
taco,
oh,
it's a type of taco that it looks more Americanized to me.
Xate says there's a new one about Dia de los Muertos that is very cool looking. Did you mean Die of the Dead? Is that the one that you
Yeah.
meant? No, is oh, so they did mean that one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, Mark Stockton Pitts. They got started with Inside the Box, and they submitted a game for the LDEC, yeah, design competition. True story. And yeah, you are awesome. So, tell us, Xate, let me check if I can share this picture. Why is this picture in Taco Takeover Western taco? How does it differ from a proper, authentic taco?
Well, the is the tortilla. It looks like is the hard tortilla, which is not really a tortilla in any case. Do you know what I mean? The one that is hard and is already shaped like this, and then you can fill it up with stuff. That's definitely something you would never find in Mexico anywhere.
It
It
would
doesn't
be
exist.
very soft, so it doesn't just self-destruct when you bite into it.
Exactly. It's always soft, and if it would be hard, it would be called tostada, but tostadas are never in this shape. Tostadas are just flat tortillas that are dried up, and then just put stuff on the top. Yeah, taco shells don't exist in Mexico. Yeah, pure,
It's
definitely.
And Mandela wants to upset you. A place local to Mandela said, "We do authentic Mexican food. We even got a chef from Spain."
I mean, it could be good. I don't know. I don't really make too much about it because I know that people have the maybe the wrong perception for obvious reasons, and it's just the media and the things that we consume that in a way gives us like you shouldn't know what Mexican food is like if you have never been to Mexico, and I think that's also understandable. Uh, that being said, though, I must I must admit that I do like
Ooh.
Tex-Mex food, but to me, I don't consider that Mexican food. I consider
What
that
if,
Tex-Mex.
okay, in this game where you're planning on making Mexican food, what if, there were bits of fabric? I don't know if you know the game Fold It, where it has like one sheet of fabric for each player. And if you're going to type, please mute yourself on StreamYard, by the way.
Oh, sorry.
But, well, Xate's very proud from Texas, I guess, because this is our Texan food. It's like, I'm very proud of the English food, chicken tikka masala. It's very English. I don't know if you're familiar with the story. And
Not with the story, but I'm aware that yeah, the Indian food here is very mild in comparison to the original one for most places. Of
also,
course,
chicken tikka doesn't have a sauce, but a sauce was added for the English palate, essentially. And stories, a lot of restaurants claim to have been the one to come up with this. Claim is that it is from Glasgow, from Taj Mahal in the West End. Claim is also that it's from that place in the middle of England. There's a lot of claims. I've also heard claims that it was from when the English colonialized India, and they complained about chicken tikka having no sauce, and so yeah, someone thinks it's from Birmingham. There's like what's that curry capital of England? But there's also sorts of claims. But yeah, anyway, getting back to this hypothetical game. So you've got a bit of cloth, like Fold It, and what if you've got little counters? So these represent the ingredients, and then you need to wrap it, like, so you're physically making the thing. Do you think that could go anywhere?
yeah, potentially yes. But now that I see that there's a game about tacos, maybe I would do something a bit different. And as you said, a game about Mexican food in general and making Mexican food could work because also the most common ingredients for most Mexican food is chili, corn, which is what tortillas are made of. Usually has onion, usually has sometimes cheese. So there's like common ingredients that fit into many dishes, and I think that could actually be very interesting.
It almost feels like maybe there's some sorts of simple set collection, like, okay, you've got the corn and then you need to spend some action points to turn that corn into your
Tortilla.
yeah, and
Or something else, because there's many things that you can do with the processed corn or yeah, how do you say, scrambled corn?
I guess it would almost be like a tech tree for the food, if you know what I mean, like where it's kind of, okay, how can it, yeah, like this is things. Mandela says, I think most UK curries are said to originate from Birmingham. Tikka is an exception with a clear traceable lineage and story from a food writer to this one place in Glasgow. The writer later came forward and said they made it up. So the whole story from Glasgow was apparently made up. So yeah, what I'm getting from this is no one can know the truth. And yeah, no one knows where chicken tikka masala is from. We will never know because people all want to be the ones to say, I made this, I invented this, I did this, especially when it's a big popular dish like that. Do you not think?
And you know what, I also wanted to mention that tikka masala is a dish that you can find anywhere and is claimed as being Indian. So it's the same example as the Tex-Mex food being claimed as Mexican in a way.
Now, people don't claim Tex-Mex food as Mexican. I mean, people who know what's what, they aren't going to confuse Tex-Mex with Mexican, or everyone knows tikka masala. Well, here at least, people know tikka masala isn't Indian.
I had no idea.
Really?
Until I arrived to London, yeah.
Oh.
But also, there's very few places of Indian food in Mexico. Is not so common as it is here to find.
This is true. I'm going to reply to Xate and just say most people also confuse a lot of things. Most people think that every game is like Monopoly.
And they're like, no.
Yeah, anyway, getting back to games, have you ever played Go?
I don't think so, no.
Is there any traditional games from Mexico that are not known here?
I would have to think about that, but off the top of my mind, not really. I might be able to think about like children's games, something that you would play when you're a kid or something like that, but not necessarily referred to as board games or tabletop. It would be more like just school games and stuff like that.
I mean, would you say that... So this is just me guessing, okay, so please correct my ignorance. Would you say that because Mexico, there's more of a struggle to just survive, there's not as much focus on creating arts and entertainment?
Yeah, I mean that's always an argument, and that's always something to think about for sure. I mean, it is almost like a deduction to say, yes, of course, if you don't have time, like if you work all day and then you arrive home very late at night, super tired, then obviously you don't have time to create anything. In a way, many writers could even say that it's a capitalistic method to keep people passive in that way. And then things like the TV nowadays, social media or the computer, it plays a very important role to kind of distract us if we go into a very apocalyptic mindset. But yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like that plays a part, but there's also not much support from the government. There's not much quality of life. So yeah, it becomes very difficult to create those sort of things. But I also want to say that Mexican people can be also very creative. So if someone wants to do something, they will do it and they'll find a way, even if it's very DIY or whatnot. So I wouldn't put it as a definite limitation, but of course you see a country like England and you see the creative industries, how they flourish here. And of course that doesn't happen in Mexico, but yeah, we can always argue that there are other priorities as well.
And I guess the last question, unless anyone else has any questionably quick questions, is do you think that there's more disparity of wealth in Mexico compared to the UK?
Absolutely. Absolutely, but without question. Yeah, there's a lot of people in Mexico that are struggling quite a lot, despite the pandemic, of course. We even have a type of poverty that is...
You mean even before the pandemic, they were struggling to just make ends meet?
Absolutely. We're talking about less than 1% having been let's say above average, or earning above average, and then there's virtually no middle class. And then everything else is people who are struggling.
Wow, so it sounds like
There is a middle class. It's just
very few people exist there.
yeah. It's even like an endangered a place to be almost really.
Endangered in what way? You mean that you're probably going to earn more money and go become even more wealthy, or you might
Yeah.
drop down, so you're not likely to stay as middle class? Is that what you're saying?
Well, not necessarily. You can stay as middle class, but the tendencies lately have been, and as I said lately in the last decade, perhaps, is that the is just getting more narrower. Like less people are middle class, and yes, effectively, they're more likely to go uh, earn less than earn more, except for a few people, of course.
And of course, like, this brings me to the main thing, and that's the end of the questionably quick questions. As we get to the main topic, I want to remind everyone to feel free to comment, ask questions, thumb, like, follow, and seize the power. I felt it worth asking about this because it is an unpublished game about discrimination, negotiation, and subjugation of power. I feel like that's the simplest way to explain it. I had you on before, I want to say, on a Saturday, and we talked about, what kind of game it is. But for those people who didn't tune into that, yeah, I've actually got, well, I should have prepared myself a little bit more. I've got all the cards in a box there, but how would you describe it? Would you just direct people to the festival page to get better information?
If someone asks me about it, I just give a general overview of what it is. Like it's a game about imbalance and power and discrimination and so on. And then I explain it's about aliens, so the physical characteristics are important. So it depends on how much in depth they are actually asking me about, because some people they're just, oh yes, what's your game about, but they don't want to hear the entire story. I guess depending on who am I explaining it for, I kind of customize my speech to make it appealing for them in a way. But yeah,
Imagine
essentially, sorry.
Imagine that there's gamers, which there are here.
Okay.
So I guess to me, like, it's a game about resource management. It's a game where, there is a basic, very simple game where you are getting work, you go to school, you gain education, and then use the education to get your job, use the job to get money, and then use the money to buy these cards, which are essentially the victory points. But these cards, which are the victory points, you see over there, it says, no ice talks, you can't go to school. No ice talks, you cannot get a new job. If you've got 3 or more ice talks, you gain 4 money on each turn. If you've got, and that's something about not having enough arms there. And every rule is something that you can choose to enforce or not enforce. And it's that negotiation as well as the auctioning for the rules, which I think are at the heart of the game.
Yeah, I think that's a very rounded up way of talking about the game. Yeah, I guess usually when I speak about it, I talk to non-gamers, so I try to make it look more. I focus more on the narrative part than the technical or mechanical part, if you must.
Maybe I focus too much on the technical parts, and
well, you're a game designer, and you're in all, everything in your life is about games, so of course that makes a lot of sense.
So I wanted to basically talk about how we got started, and hopefully this can be part of an ongoing design diary to get to know us, get to know the people involved in the game. And what I was thinking was maybe literally everyone who has played a part in the game could even be on the stream, because even though, okay, there's going to be so many people who can't be on the stream, because there's so many people like, well, Ellie has already been on the stream, but, you know, Kieran and who was it who played that person who only
The
comes...
original.
Yeah, the people who played the original playtest.
Was
was
it
that
Dave?
person? You mean David Brain?
Yeah. Yeah.
David Brain was definitely played it at some point. I'm also thinking of that American person who normally used to only join us for one session, and they never brought any of their own games. Like G.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you know,
Yeah.
there's so much valuable input from all these people who are sharing information. I like that one game that we played, which was so many people, and it was like, hey, wait a minute, this game is actually exponentially longer, because that was a big thing for me to realize, hey, wait a minute, if you have 6 people rather than 5 people, the game isn't 20% longer, because it's not just one extra person having to trade. It's like every single one of these turns, this other person was making those turns a little bit longer as well. So it's almost like 4 people is good. 5 people is, to my mind, a really nice number. 6 people can work, but only if you've got like 2 hours or more. And I think that there were people at that table who said that they wanted to carry on playing after we basically ran out of time. And Dave from Australia, Dave, you know, Dave from Australia, you know, that's other, what's their surname?
I have no idea. I forgot.
Anyway, so this Dave is a lovely Dave, and maybe Mandela can remember their name. I'm very sorry, Dave from Australia. Aurora Productions. This is the problem with naming your Twitter something that's not your name. Because if you name yourself Aurora Productions, at least I remembered that. But if you were like Dave Dawkins, thank you so much, Mandela. Dave Dawkins. Yes, Dave Dawkins added so much to this game. Like, yeah, Dave from Kaleido Cards, Dave Weatherall, and yeah, all these people who playtest. I'm not expecting to get all of them in this series of design diaries. I'm not expecting to get Casey, but like, it would be really nice to be like, okay, here's all the people involved in making this game, if you know what I mean. So that's just an introduction to this series. That's why I started this series. That's what I'm planning to do, because I thought I should get that out there. This is like a brand new series that I'm going to be tapping into like every 3-4 weeks when we have something new to shout about. So yeah, can I talk a little bit about the ideas that I had before I presented them to you?
For sure.
So I had this idea, I had this dream of a game, which was like a super simple game. Maybe it's like a roll and move game, but you know, there's some economy to it. I don't know what kind of game it would be. That was the bit that I never quite worked out. And so it was like, okay, maybe you move your pieces, but someone says, oh, a card says that when you roll your dice, you move forward that many spaces. Another person says, oh, you rolled a die, but you have to basically count both of the dice. And so, I don't know, there's another die that some of the spaces maybe have special powers, but these special powers are controlled by the people. So someone says, oh, when you land on a blue thing, you get this. But they are the person who decides whether that rule happens or not. That was basically the idea that I had, which was very abstract. It was very mechanical. And the problems that I had in my mind were, how can we make a game that does the basic game need to be interesting for this kind of changing rules to be interesting? And how can we balance all these changing rules that people are in possession of? Because it's not as if once you have this rule, I mean, sure, you could buy rules for some amounts of money, but then that's just a wildly spiraling positive feedback loop where once you're winning so much, okay, you get this rule that's going to make you win even more. The interesting parts would be if everyone was handed out some rules. And so how do I balance them? And I think when I came to you, I had just hit upon the theme of, you know, discrimination. And I was like, okay, there's this idea in my head. I have no idea how to do this, but discrimination, that makes sense of the whole disparity thing, because Festival had come up, and I don't know, maybe kind of seeing you, like, obviously had inspired me in some ways. We had properly chatted at BG DevCon. You'd given a brilliant talk. I think Mandela was there, and I think Alex has been to. I don't know if Alex has been to any of the BG DevCons. I was considering a digital thing, but it just felt like there's no point in doing it. I don't know if you agree with that.
Well, I think. I mean, I don't know. I really enjoyed my time last time.
But I don't know if a digital thing would be worth doing, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's better just to pause it, because it's also a like an event that you have to organize and all that.
Yeah, it's a hard time for everyone, and I don't want to be like organizing things if there's not a demand. But Alex never managed to join. But yeah, hopefully there will be another one, in maybe, I don't know, 2021. We will see. Maybe we'll have to put some maximum limits. I don't know. Well, you know what? If there's at least 5 people interested in the digital one, then we can organize something. So, because I think that 5 people, okay, then we've less than 5 people. That's just ridiculously sad. For the physical thing, it was 20 people. Otherwise, it's just not worth running. But hey, this was a proper promise. I made a promise that if at least 2 people posted a picture, then I would make a calendar. And 1 person posted a picture, so I did not. Genuinely, if 5 people say they want to come to a digital thing, I would do a digital thing. Anyway, so the point is that we met, we kind of knew each other, and then was like, hey, Tiz, how did I get in touch with you? Tell us about that conversation.
I don't remember the exact details of how it started specifically, because I have really bad memory. But I do remember I'm a really newbie in game design. I have done really simple games before that are not play tested or anything like that for an art context. So this is the first time that the game really needs to work and needs to be playable and needs to be, yeah, a game that you can have in your bookshelf for life, in a way. But I guess I entered to the design process when we started talking about it. It was really fast as well, I remember, because if Festival was coming up, and the whole point was to put it on a deadline. I think that there were very small beliefs for this game, or a little hope for the game, and I think we left it to destiny in a way and say, if someone is interested in this game, then we can continue doing something with it. If not, we can consider.
I mean, but you're talking about when we signed it up to Inside the Box, and that's kind of getting ahead of ourselves. Like,
No. I meant in the Festival thing. After we submitted to Festival, I think there were some doubts there if it was going to work or not. But once we got inside, once we got selected for Festival, we were like, okay, this might work. I don't know if you remember that, but there was a little bit of doubt of saying, like, I don't know if this game is going to work, because at that stage it was very unbalanced. It was more of a game that you would play once, learn the lesson in a way, and then never look back at it again, because it wasn't playable. It was more like a statement with an interactivity in a way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And just a quick hello to Chris. Lovely to see you and everyone else in chat. And yeah, it came from this idea, and then I contacted you somehow. Like, we definitely had a few phone conversations or WhatsApp phone conversations, just on the audio for like literally hours, and then we chatted about it. But I basically invited you somehow. I can't remember. I don't have any memory of how I contacted you.
Yeah, me neither.
I assumed that it was something to do with, hey Tiz, I've got this idea, would you like to be involved? And then you basically said, yeah, and then we kind of we talked about this game, and then we realized that we could only actually get together and start making it the same day that the deadline for Festival was. But we talked about it so much, we had ideas, and like, then we were like, okay, this is going to be, okay, what will this game represent? And then we had some vague ideas of, okay, it's going to be about going to school, it's going to be about getting a job, getting money, and when will you win? Maybe you win when you get so many of these rule cards. That will be the win condition. Which now there's like, it's slightly different. You've got these secret objectives, which I think makes it a little bit better, because you don't know exactly when someone's won. And so you think that someone's, clearly winning the pack, but it's a way that you allow the person with the biggest disadvantages, Finnemore, in the current version of the game, because they are all alphabetical. So it was Beta, Silosa, Debob, what's E? Ento, and Finnemore. And like, I feel like you came up with a lot more of the narrative. And then we got together, and then just as we were about to start, I'd been pondering it as I cycled in. This is where I do lots of my game design, where I did a lot of my game design. My weekly cycle to Royal Festival Hall, where it was like, okay, I want to show this game. I have no idea what I'm going to do. I'm going to work out the final rules and peek behind the scenes. A lot of those kinds of L games, I would come in thinking, okay, I've got this game about, people bluffing and making up words. How can this work? Okay, this is a rule set that hopefully this will work. And actually modeling that in my head as I'm cycling down, because cycling, it uses my physicality, but generally my brain kind of turns off a little bit. Chris says that the description of the game sounds very optimistic. The idea that goodwill can elevate the less privileged. I always appreciate an underlying message of positivity in this sort of thing. And
it could be very optimistic, but it could also be the other way around. I think the game allows you to make of the game whatever you want, no?
Yeah, and I think it's undeniable that looking at it the other way, the conclusion that you can draw is that you will be less likely to win as Tiz, because you are not willing to stamp on other people. So that what that suggests is that in order to win, you need to stamp on other people, and you need to exert the power and be ruthless. And there's
that's true. I feel very uncomfortable playing that role just because I don't know what to do, because it's really unlike my behavior, at least not consciously. But it is interesting what character that you choose, and I think that I'm gonna play Am one day, and I'm gonna be the cruelest and the meanest Am possible. But I need to build up to it. At the beginning, it was a bit challenging for me. But now that I've been playing it more, or I'm more comfortable with the game, I'm definitely gonna start exploring more characters to my way of playing. So not exploring the characters of the game, but give them different characters to the characters in the game, if that makes any sense.
Have you played Tifa Tashin, Tiz?
Nope. No, I think I haven't.
At some points, when we can get together safely, we need to play so many games, because it kind of reminds me of Tifa Tashin, right? That you might not want to play it twice in a row, because once you played it once, it's very much about take that and stamping down on people and being ruthless and vindictive. And in a way, if you play I'm the Boss, this is an amazing game by Sid Saxon, I want to say. I'm the Boss, so much better than Catan. If you want a game about wheeling and dealing, and that's what you like about Monopoly. So if someone likes the trading aspects of Monopoly, I Am the Boss is the best game, in my opinion, for those people, because it's fairly simple. There's so much wheeling and dealing, and it can be super cutthroat. But all of these games, it feels like once you played them once, then you want to play maybe something a bit lighter afterwards. And it's like, okay, you know, we had that experience. Now we're still friends. Let's play something a bit gentler. Do you know what I mean? And I don't think, obviously, Seize the Power is a bit longer. It's more like 90 minutes for 5 people, maybe, and 2 hours for 6 people, and 7 or 8. I don't know if I would recommend that, but we will kind of see what happens during the developments. I mean, that's the thing that we're meant to be kind of looking at. But yeah, getting ahead of myself, but the COVID has definitely affected me. I don't know about you.
Definitely, especially when it comes to, and specifically when it comes to playtesting and when it comes to developing games. Definitely, it has been very challenging. I mean, for instance, I haven't been in any of the virtual, if there are still playtesting groups in London, or the one that we used to go in
Like
the Royal.
there was a Friday one for a while. I ran it
Yeah.
with Ali, and then Ali wasn't stopped coming after a while, and was like, you know what? There's not enough people here. It's not fulfilling my needs of getting together with people. And actually, it was only once I stopped doing that I started doing this, and I'm definitely enjoying this a lot more. Like I would rather chat with Martin Wallace for 2 hours than playtest Martin Wallace's game for 2 hours. And that's my personal opinion. I know there's lots of people who would prefer to playtest something by someone. And it says, someone cancelled their grocery delivery and I was able to order food during this show to be delivered Tuesday. Amazing. Congratulations. That's still a few days away, but hope for food. Because some people just aren't, Xate is having mobility issues at the moment and not meant to go outside. They might have COVID, so lots of love and compassion to you.
For sure.
Yeah.
And also, as things start getting a little bit hot I mean in the figurative sense of the word, in the UK and in London, I think people are starting to use the delivery services more. So yeah, it might be that we have also another moment of congestion, but I assume that the shops are going to prepare for that as well. If it's
At
like
least this time they will have seen it coming.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's a challenge to find a delivery slot. I sympathize with that. I haven't been able to find it. I'm not even looking for them anymore, of course. But at the beginning, I was looking for them, and for like 2 or 3 months, I was occasionally looking for a slot, and I never found one.
You know, it strikes me that we are very bad at keeping on point. And it strikes me to remember, you know, Jason's thing yesterday about saying, yeah, we're two creatives and it's like the blind leading the blind. And we're both kind of so tangential. How did we even make something? Like, getting back to the point, like, we started off, we'd chatted on the phone. We had one day to basically make something and then submit it. But we had talks before. And at the start of that morning, I cycled in and was like, hey, Tiz, do you think we should have real people or should we have aliens?
And I was in for the idea of real people at the beginning. But what I was trying to say before is that because I'm new to designing board games and all that, and I'm an artist by formation, I always think about the conceptual part of it, or the thematic or narrative part of things, and then I figure out how to construct them, or at least that's the way I usually do things. So in my mind, what I was thinking about in terms of the story or the purpose of the game, and kind of trying to make sure that the mechanics fit well and so on and so forth. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess at the beginning I thought it was going to it should be humans, but then I put myself in the context of saying, okay, this is not an artwork, this is a game,
And it's
and then
difficult.
my perspective.
Sorry, that's me trying to say different and difficult at the same time and not being sure what to say. But the thing about most artwork, you can more easily step away from, let's say. In a game,
Yeah.
you need to be there to keep the game going. So it needs to be arguably less emotive in some ways. It can't be quite as triggering. If there is a painting or a film that, well, hey, wait a minute, this is actually upsetting me a lot more than I realized, I can step away from the film, I can step away from the painting, and maybe the person that I was wandering around the gallery with, maybe we're doing it as a group. Maybe I don't know, watching a film with you, Tiz. And if you want to keep watching the film, you can. It doesn't impact your ability to watch the film. Okay, like, yeah, maybe we've gone to see it together, and if we've made a special date of it, then it would be a bit sad. But, if it's my housemate, let's say it's my housemate, we're watching this film, and then, you know what, this film isn't for me, you carry on watching it, I'm sorry, I'm just not able to deal with this right now. I can step away, they will still enjoy it. With a game, that's not true. And so I know that a few days ago, when was it we were talking about Monopoly? And yeah, oh, it was when Antoinette was on Friday. And yeah, Jess was talking about how I really like to know things are going to come to a conclusion, and maybe in the comfort, surprise, completion, narrative, maybe board gamers generally have a greater desire for completion than the general population. And we want to make sure that we see those things through. And so, yeah, it feels like we want to be a little bit more safe and not so upsetting. Chris says, Aliens promotes the players to take more realistic decisions in my mind. Having recognizable human characters may instill some preconceived notions of how that person would act, which is very interesting. And I guess the other thought that this picks up is maybe you're more willing to be mean to an alien than you are willing to be mean to a human. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, at least in a simulation context, definitely. I mean, if you're caught off guard in your everyday life and you've been having a really bad day, you could be mean to someone without. But if you have the time and the space to think about your actions, I think you would be, at least in principle, less likely to do an atrocity of some sort.
I think the key thing is that when I was actually thinking, okay, what are we actually going to write? People with this color of skin, can't do that. People with...
I was in mute, sorry.
Oh, did you have something to add? Sorry.
No, it's okay. Let's continue.
Just like, yeah, it's like if you start saying, okay, people who are presenting as female can't do this, and all of these things.
There is also a bit of I would say, an ethical problem with using humans in a game like this, because it implies that you have to make assumptions of what is discriminatory, and that will centralize us or will position us in a certain specific context or society, because you don't know what the norms or social norms are in all the world. So it would be something completely westernized, for example, or a game for Western people. But also there's other conflicting things. And one of them, for example, would be that if you do a rule and then the world changes, because the world is constantly changing and people are changing their minds about things periodically, I would say, then the game would lose relevance at some point. Or it would reiterate something that is no longer used if you must. And yeah,
Yes,
there's just a little bit ethical problems as well, because in the art world you also have a license in a way, or the agency as an artist, to talk about political subjects, and you're talking about a fragment of time, a moment in time. So many art historians say that that art is a reflection of their time in a way. So if you look at art in a specific era, then you could be able to understand certain things about, I don't know, the world, the social life of a particular person, and so on and so forth. Whereas in games, you're trying to make the story be able to be understand or understood without any context, without any previous knowledge, and just by reading the rules. When art sometimes could be very exclusive and could be very conceptual, and many times in those cases you need to have certain amount of knowledge to be able to understand the art. And I am not saying I agree with this, and I'm not saying that this is how it should be, but in a way this is how that is. So without context, if you have a game and then it says all these things, it could also be very problematic and exclusive to a certain group.
For sure. I mean, there's the problem with being palatable. There's a problem with feeling like, okay, this is about, this game is about humans. It's about real life. So people imagine that we were keeping things more directly true. And as you want to make simplifications to make it work as a game, you've got to step away from that slightly. And yeah, Chris makes a good point about the marketing. And I think that the other reasons, do lead to a more marketable game, like making it more palatable, making it more ethical, making it work as a game. And I was coming from it from the perspective of, you know what, I don't know if we even want to get this to a publisher. I just think it's something that will be interesting to work on purely as a, I want to create this. I want to have this thing made. And then having the aliens, you can have any number of arms. You can have any number of eyes. Why not? You can have eye stalks. And these three aspects give a real interesting dimension to, okay, who are you discriminating against? Because this card discriminates against folk with not that many eyes. You can easily count them. This card discriminates against people, okay, you get 1 money per pair of eyes that you have on your turn, but only, of course, if the person who owns the card agrees that you get that money. And I think that there's no chance of ever going back. But in that first playtest, it feels like everything was basically there, right? How do you remember that first playtest going? Oh, no, sorry, you're wrong. The eye stalks are good in this world.
Yeah, definitely. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah, those. If you don't have eye stalks, what hellish?
Who do you think you are?
Yeah.
I remember our first playtest was very exciting for me because I have been to the group within the group quite a few times by that point, and this is the first time that I got to playtest something that I did. It was very rushed. It was very even blurry in a way, because we designed the entire game minutes before we playtested it. I think we started playtesting it without defining some stuff, and we just defined them on the way. But I also thought I had this feeling, and I guess this feeling is something that you usually have the first time you playtest a game, or the first time you decide the first draft of your game, or the first idea of your game. That is always a certain level of disappointment, in a way of saying this doesn't work. And at that time, I guess I couldn't see how it would work immediately. So I was a little bit I don't know. I mean, I had mixed
Worried?
feelings about it, but at the same time, I was really happy that we had it and that we did it, and for the time being, and for
Like,
what's
talk
worth.
about the creation, like the drawing and the chatting in that first day. Like, because we got together at 10, and then the plan is that, look, I don't normally do this. No newcomer to the group would be allowed to do this, but we had both been to the group before. I'd been many times. I'd built up those kinds of credits, if you know what I mean. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to join you for the start of the day, but this one end of the day, we're going to make this game. And at 3 o'clock, please let us play test this. And so, yeah, from 10 o'clock until 3 o'clock, we worked on this game. We made the game. We drew the cards. We, worked out
Everything.
how the game was going to work. But we had
Because
talked about it before.
we talked about it, but we never talked about the mechanics. We never talked about the game design itself. I think what we talked most about is what we wanted our game to be about, and very roughly how. But I think we never really defined anything. And I think at that stage, you had some ideas, I had some ideas, and we had to be very pragmatic when we had to make decisions, because we didn't have time to ponder upon all of the ideas. So we just made a very fast draft. We decided that it was going to be aliens within that time as well. We made a lot of core decisions of the game that are still relevant today, actually, now that I think about it.
I mean, I think on that first day, everything basically came together. And there's so much that's changed. Like, the auction mechanism is completely different. Yeah. It used to be just going around, the person who bids the most money gets the card. And I think that's what it was on that day. And then after Festival accepted it, we played around with some other things. But yeah, Chris makes another issue with using real races. You can attract the wrong types of people who just basically want to beat down on other people. Like, it's almost like a safe harbor for those people to, be an evil self, if you know what I mean. And maybe they get some malicious glee. You could argue that it's training them to... And in a way, the game is quite simplistic. Like, it's not... like, the message, it's stripping out a lot of nuance that exists in the real world, of course, because how can a game not be a simplification of, the whole world? None of us are intelligent enough, and a game that modeled the actual world, just, you couldn't even start to approach that as a player. But having that simplification of being aliens, it feels like, hopefully you play it as a game. Hopefully it's going to be replayable, but then... Anyway, so Festival accepted it, but I can't remember. Did you have... I can't remember how I felt if I was going to work on it if they didn't. Do you remember how you felt? Would you have wanted to work on it if it hadn't been accepted?
I was definitely up for working on it, because I thought the idea was interesting, but I always considered the possibility that the game was not going to be a sellable game or a commercial game in any means, and it could be more something that could apply to an art context or something like that. So because of that, on my side, I was completely for to working on it, but I also thought that maybe you didn't want it to, or you weren't really keen on maybe design a game that is not going to work.
I don't know. I mean, I think that I might have been interested. I don't know how I felt. I generally can't remember that
I
far
do
back.
remember that you were very doubtful, in a way of saying, like, let's see what happens. If it gets accepted, of course we continue. If not, we can talk about it and see if it's worth it or not.
It was accepted for Festival 2020. So basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, technically for this year's festival, not this year's contest, for Festival 2021. So yeah, it was meant to be played at Festival 2020. And yeah, I guess we could talk about the cancellation of Festival. I think that we should still, I know, keep this a hard limit of 2 hours, and it feels like we should even talk again, just the two of us, before we actually get to the next step, because there's so much more to talk about. And I think I'm really enjoying having this discussion, and it's almost like as we get towards the current thing, we could maybe make this a little bit more public. I'm really inspired by what Michael, Idol Michael, Sweet Boy Michael, Michael from Hub Games, has been doing with making a game. Like twice a week they kind of chat with other people and say, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing, and then maybe other people chip in ideas. And whilst I'm not necessarily wanting to do it in exactly that same way, because there's been a lot of stuff that's already happened, I think it would be really interesting to kind of try and chat about things, and if other people have inputs or anything along the way, then that's what playtesting is. I mean, do you remember, did we make any changes from that first playtest to what we submitted?
Yeah, definitely. I think that within the playtest, we made changes live. So we were fixing some cards.
Someone has a better memory than me. Please carry on.
No, I actually have a very bad memory, but for some reason, there's certain things that I remember. And yeah, I definitely remember you taking cards and scrapping them up and adding new numbers or new values. And then at some point, someone asked, like, oh, what do I do in this case? And we were like, what can you do in this case? And then we just made a random rule on the spot.
Well, maybe not random. Maybe, it had some consideration.
Informed rule.
But improvised rule. That's a good word.
Improvised rule. So definitely we changed the rules when we wrote them up for festival. But I think at the beginning we didn't have rules. It was just like, okay, first we're gonna do this, then we do this, then we have the rounds, and you can do this and that, and blah blah blah. So we had some ideas, but we never had a rule set or anything like that. We never wrote it at that time. We just had it in our minds how more or less is going to work. In fact, I was a bit confused, so I let you speak and explain to everyone what we were going to do, or what's the game about and how do you play it. But yeah, that's what I remember of now.
This is actually our original pitch. Whoops. So what Seize the Power about, and then it has that, and then what we said, unique qualities, intentionally imbalanced characters, the rules of the game that are enforced or ignored by the players around the table, provokes discussion of inequality. And then we talked about what kind of emotions we wanted to elicit. Yeah, this was the images that we had from that first playtest. This was, oh, look, here we go. That's the first ever playtest.
Yeah.
It's Bez, Tiz, Kieran Symington, Ellie, and Dave Dawkins. There we go. And so, yeah. And people know Ellie Dix, and yeah, components. I guess I decided some exact number, and we talked about...
I just want to say I got the Daves confused, and I was actually thinking about this David Dawkins.
What? No, that's his Australian Dave. Dave Dawkins are Australian.
Yeah.
They moved back to Australia. And we talked about why we want to make it and why play it. And we had these headers, and then, yeah, you basically wrote a bunch, I wrote a bunch, and it felt really good because we were sitting beside each other. We were both working on this thing. We'd just finished playtesting. And then, yeah, I mean, you know what? I think that we should even stop the conversation here, but dissect that first day. and then let's talk about like the rest of the developments, you know, another time, because I think it's important to have, okay, what did we do well? What did we do badly, if anything? And yeah, what are the takeaways? Because for me, like the takeaway is that if you have like a strong idea and if you have passion and if you want to do something, then like getting together with someone, for me at least, physically, yeah, being able to chat about things, and then you can do so much in a single day. And I think the deadline was like 12 midnight, something like that. And we were sitting there, maybe we submitted at 9 p.m., something like that.
I think a bit later. We were there for a very long time.
I could actually double check. There's a 10:34 p.m. There you go. Wow, we were there pretty late. We were just, yeah, we had like a 13-hour day, I guess. And then finally we got, and I guess it's like, yeah, if you've got the passion and the energy and things, you can potentially do great things in a short amount of time. I don't know. That feels very big-headed.
I guess it has a certain amount of luck as well, and
for sure,
and it has to be like a good combination from starters, but also like a connection in terms of the team and things like that. But it was really great. I mean, I'm sometimes even surprised now that we managed to work it out, and now we're here talking about it in the middle of the process of completing it.
The deadline is 11 p.m. UK, and so
we sent it half an hour before.
Yeah, we did. Whereas the festival put the deadline as the wrong time, and Xate and I tried to have something for this year, but Xate and I, well, I was confused because Festival had written the wrong date. Festival said it was midnight UK time, but it was midnight GMT, but they actually put UK time. Anyway, so it was like slightly late. I don't know if that affected them rejecting our thing this year. I don't know. We can always try it again, Xate. But
I also applied and I also got rejected. I was thinking about a game for a while, and I thought, oh, this is a good time because of our experience the previous year, and I thought, oh, maybe this is a good time to get the motivation to design very quickly a game and see how it goes. But then it turned out to have more problems than solutions, so I just let it rest. And now I'm working on trying to figure out a different game. But yeah, it's funny that we both applied.
Like, Alex also applied and got rejected. It's, I mean, it was a lot of applications this year, and it was even fewer possibilities than last year because of, yeah. So I guess next time we'll talk about how it changed, like the auction rule and why I put that auction rule in. Like, what would you like to chat about? Yeah, we can chat about everything else.
Yeah, now that you mention it, for these sessions that we plan to do occasionally about Seize the Power, we can maybe make some rough draft. Because now that we talked about it, I think it would be nice to make a memory exercise, both of us, and try to build a timeline of some sorts.
Bye, Alex.
Bye, Alex.
I mean, what is... I guess my other takeaway from it, as well as the luck that you mentioned, there's also all the help with other people, like just kind of all those people who were willing. And yes, it's like other people are amazing. And I think that Tiz is the first person that I've properly collaborated with from the start, and it actually worked well. And I would be down for another design. It's just that this year is so hard, you know what I mean? But yeah, I want to say that Kieran is amazing. Kieran is someone who just basically will exploit any loophole in a game. Xate, you would have so much fun with Kieran. And Ellie's like coming from it from a family game perspective. Dave is like, just okay, I'm going to enjoy this, and a bit more like you, enjoying the story. And having all these people who are willing to share their opinion, playtesters, for sure, there is so much that, as you say, changed in that first playtest. I don't remember it, to be honest, but I can absolutely believe it. Like, this looks very similar to what we've got today in terms of, okay, there's the jobs, there's the energy, there's the knowledge, there's the money, and like free resources is a nice amount to have in an economy. And yeah, I don't feel like that much changed like since. And it feels like now there's not that much that's going to change since the game right now. It's just that we're kind of tweaking the number of the cards and tweaking, those few details. Oh yeah, like that story idea, like the debrief idea that it was based on Nordic LARP. I don't know if that's a thing to talk about.
Yeah, we can definitely. I don't know if you want to talk about it today, but
for that first day, let's just yeah, you're right. It's getting late. That was the very early story. That was like the first 2 weeks of it.
Yes, of course. And just to make a brief introduction to that, we wanted, because it's very thematically charged, this game, despite being aliens, we wanted to have a debrief after the game so people can talk about their experiences and what they thought, if they relate to their character, what moments were challenging, so on and so forth. It's something that is still in the top of my mind, but it's definitely not a priority for the game right now. But yeah, we wanted to have a debrief, and because I have some experience with LARP and Nordic LARP specifically, I thought that maybe we can steal that mechanic from them, which is the debriefing sessions. Now, it's still, I think it's still on the wire. I mean, it's not really part of the official game anymore. If it ever was more than just like a vague idea.
But like, I realized that there's one thing that we've not talked about that I said we would talk about. We talked about how the game got started. We talked about how we became co-designers, but we didn't talk about why we became co-designers. So I would like for 5 minutes to talk about yeah, actually, I'm going to get rid of this recap. For 5 minutes, let's talk about why you decided to start making this with me. Why?
I think that thematically, we both have a relationship to the theme. And in my case, I found very interesting to make a game that is talking about who we are and what we've done as a society or as a community. So I was very excited to talk about that, and very interested on seeing how that could possibly work as a game, because it is a very human thing, and it's a very challenging thing to replicate or to put within a tabletop context that is in a way limited by the mechanics. And now personally as well, I really wanted to work with you because I know you're very talented, and yeah, I mean, I learned a lot up to now from you, so I'm very grateful also for that opportunity. So when it came to being, I was like, yes, for sure. I was thinking about making a game for a while, but I didn't knew how to start or where to go. So it was like almost a perfect situation for me, and yeah, I'm very grateful that I got this opportunity.
mean, for me, like, I'm just looking at this, why make the game, why play this game, and this text was written by both of us. I cannot overstate that. Like, I think that the why make that game, there's parts of it that I feel like, okay, it was probably started off by you. Like, we decided at the time, okay, we're going to start off things, but then it will be edited by the other person. There were heavy edits. Do you know what I mean? Like, we had so much. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just give me compliments, please. It's also why this game, which is like
thematically is something very important for both of us, because we both come from a certain context where we have been through or experienced some sort of discrimination, right?
And I notice your winky face, and so you're not totally against me asking questions that results in yeah. Anyway, but I wanted to work with Tiz because I think that why we became collaborators, I think, is because I felt like you would be able to bring something different to it. I think I knew, well, we did meet at the Smoke. I think I remembered that somehow, and I had obviously seen your artwork, that there was something different there. I felt like this game, I didn't want it to be constrained by what was going on in board games. I wanted someone there who was able to, you know, bring something else to it, who brought like more an artistic perspective, who brought something more of a narrative, and who brought something more of a, hey, this is what we can do, and like a big picture, we could even change the world with this, which I love your ambition. And even though we moved away from that initial on the thing, it says disadvantaged characters will still not win the game. We kind of changed that now. It's easier for it's more possible, let's say, for disadvantaged characters to win the game. Dave Weatherall did manage to win twice at Aircon, once as the best character, then once as the worst character. But the second time, Dave was playing as the worst character, and you need to play very, very well and have other people maybe not take full advantage of their privilege. But then the question becomes, like, who has won? Like, if this were reality, is the fact that the disadvantaged character has this many personal goals, does that stop the other characters from... And maybe there is like still room for, like, even though we never had a clear, this is how you're going to debrief, I think that having something like that you've talked about from a classroom setting would be a wonderful thing. Although that's all a conversation for later. I've talked about so much. Recap. And we've talked about so much. I talked about the Bez and Friends game day. We talked about food. We talked about, looking forward to food. We talked about getting shopping done and getting deliveries for Tuesday. So, yay, that sounds awesome. Congratulations and lots of to excite. We talked about, why I started this series of us chatting to each other. Hopefully it will be interesting to speak to as many people as we can get and who were somehow involved in this game, to talk about how, there's so many people and there's going to be so many more people. Like, as it gears up, there's going to be an artist, there's going to be like some marketing person, there's going to be more developers, there's going to be, there's so many names involved, and you don't think about everyone all the time. And I originally wanted to do that for Adventure Mart, and then the artist said, sorry, I don't have time. And so I had 2 out of 3 of the Digit Sprite people, because the third one didn't want to come on. But then I was like, okay, well, let's not do that for this game, but maybe we could do it for one of my games. Why not? And it feels like, Anyway, so, but we talked about why we got together. We talked about like just how we're hopefully making something that... We talked about the conversations on the phone, working out what we're doing, working out the basic tenets of the game. And then on the first day saying, okay, it's all about aliens rather than humans, simplifying things. Had that first playtest, it worked out well. And then we spent basically so long. It must have been from 5 p.m. until 10 o'clock we were basically sitting down together, just working it out. And yes, we had a break to have some food. I took a 20-minute break to wander around, but yeah, it was a lot of work, and it's hopefully, the work is not yet done, but we were accepted. We can definitely share that much.
And we're here now as well, so for that's worth.
Yeah, we're alive. That's pretty good. Now, if you want to find us, Tiz, can you talk about your links?
For sure. You can find me in any social media as Tiz Creel, as you can see here in the bottom. So Instagram, Twitter, also my website. I keep it very simple. My email at Gmail, tizcreel@gmail.com. In Board Game Geek as well. What about you, Bez?
Okay, so I am stuffbybez.com is my website, stuffbez.bigcartel.com if you want to buy stuff, twitter.com stuffbybez for the maximum amount of info from me, instagram.com/stuffbybez. Well, I should also say I've got a mailing list, sign up to that, twitch.tv/stuffbybez. That's actually probably the most from me. Yeah, I lie. I probably spend more time and definitely more energy and more communicating with Bez on Twitch than anywhere else. And then there's the facebook.com/thingsbybez, because I've still not worked out how to change that, even though apparently it's a thing, and I need to sort that out. And stuffbybez@gmail.com. Now, I would like to ask everyone, say to everyone, firstly, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for watching, everyone who popped in earlier, and a special shout out to Xates, who's the most amazing person in Leipzig that I know of. I can definitely say that. Yeah, anyway, Xates seems amazing, generally. Like, if you were here, we definitely spend time together and playing games, and I would cook for you, and you could for me. But anyway, I want to say over to you. What are you up to? You can share on me if you want to. Is there anything that you're looking forward to? Hopes and ambitions? Share anything exciting, trivial, important, or just fun. Anything that you want to share.
Yes, I mean, first things first, I'm very excited that I'm gonna eat Mexican food later on today, because it's rare for many reasons. First of all, it's difficult to find a place that has decent, authentic food in a way. And then the second reason is that usually if you find the authentic food, Mexican food, is usually very, very expensive. So you pay a lot for 2 tacos that are very, very small, for example, and you never get filled up. So it's very rare that I eat Mexican food. But
maybe I'll go to Mexico. I hear it's is it warm all year round?
Depends on where you are, but not really. Essentially not really, but if you go to the south, then the weather is going to be good all year round. It's going to get colder, of course, and maybe at night you have to wear a sweater or something. Maybe if you're British, you don't have to wear a sweater, but I do. And Mexico City, where I grew up and where my family is and everything, it's very elevated, so it could get quite cold in certain parts of the city. It rains a lot as well. But yeah, if you get the sun can be very strong. So you get both ways. But one thing that I usually say about Mexican weather is that you use the same clothes all year round, but maybe sometimes you add a sweater or a jacket, but you use the same clothes. You don't change outfits.
Yeah, you definitely need to do that here. I'm kind of, before I could sit outside with just a t-shirt. Now I'm wearing like a body warmer, even just to sit in my room. But yeah, anyone in chats who've got a couple of minutes, tell us what you're up to, what you're looking forward to, or share some boring facts about yourself. I'm going to share the fact that you all probably already know that I'm hoping to see McCall today, and Chris might be there, but we're planning to have a bit of a walk, and Chris sometimes needs a bit of time to themselves, and so that's something that I'll do today. I'm planning to take basically from 1 o'clock, once I've basically done that, yeah, hopefully get the freezer, once the freezer's fully defrosted, turn it on again. There'll be a bits of tidying and have to run a few washes. I might even, play a single player game of something. Might even ask McCall if they are up for a game today. We'll see what McCall says. But it's all about McCall because, people shouldn't be forced to play games they don't want to. It's all about
Yeah. Been there, done that. There's been so many times where I have people over and I'm like, let's play a game. And then everybody's just so caught up in the conversations that at some point I just start picking everything up, just giving up without even asking, like, okay, you guys don't want to play anymore. Like, I just assume that no one wants to play anymore and I just take the game. Very sad.
Oh. I mean,
But yeah, I learned the hard way.
Asking, do you want to play again, or just ask the question? And if you don't, that's fine. It's like, do you want to play? Or do you want to play a board game? Like, do you want to play with me? Do you want to play a little? Maybe we can play my little scythe. Or between two cities, we could play an L game. There's so many. There are. We could play an L game where you draw on a sheet with stars. This one Sate hasn't played, and it was by Sebastian Bleasdale. It's actually got quite a bit going on. Anyway, so yeah, there is the Ambirona version of that song. Yeah, Ambirona is amazing. That's a good thing to share. And Chris has made some icons for a friend's game prototype. That sounds lovely. I do have to. I know that probably, because it's a Sunday, maybe if we are a minute over, it's not a big deal. But I want to say thank you, everyone. You are all lovely. For my next streams, look at stuffbez.com/streams. Tomorrow, I have someone amazing from Germany coming on. I don't know which city they are from. It's not Xate. It's Daniel Danzer, who is the best German translator of games. I've not read any of the rules because my German is not good enough, but I've heard are very good. Share, spread the word, and let me check for the raid, and let me check if there's anything good going on. But for now, there's only one thing left to do. Does anyone have anything left to say? There is Piano Man. You know what? Ludo Cherry's doing something, and they've got hardly anyone there. So if you're up for it, people, I will give a shout out to Raid Ludo Cherry just to say hi. And for now, there is only one thing left to do. And bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. Now it's time to go to do bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Still thinking of Satan's song. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Hey, bye-bye.